Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the blueprint for financial freedom. A lot of us grew up thinking that building long-term wealth means you gotta be some kind of math genius, right? Like you need to spend hours staring at complex spreadsheets and stock charts. But what if I told you it's actually way less about the math and significantly more about mastering your own psychology? Seriously. We're gonna break down the exact mindsets and strategies that turn everyday people into financially independent rock stars. Let's get into it. Okay, let's dive right into this roadmap. We've got 5 quick chapters today. First, the psychology of spending. Then, mastering your money numbers. Next, the magic of compounding, comparing the slow lane versus the fast lane. And finally, defining your true wealth. All right, Chapter 1, the psychology of spending. Before we even think about looking at stock charts, we really have to look inward. Why on earth do incredibly smart people make completely irrational money choices? You see it literally all the time, right? People totally sabotaging their own finances to buy things they honestly don't need. And why do we do it? Well, we often do it because we're trying to heal a psychological wound, usually the need to be seen. You know the drill. Buying that flashy car on a high-interest loan, or designer clothes that drop in value the second you rip the tags off, all just to impress people who, let's be real, aren't even paying attention to us in the first place. Which perfectly brings us to this brilliant concept from financial writer Morgan Housel. He says, wealth is what you have minus what you want. Think about that for a second. The crucial takeaway here is that true wealth is actually found in contentment. If your expectations are constantly growing faster than your income, you are never, ever going to feel wealthy. You could literally earn $1 million a year, but if you suddenly decide you want $2 million worth of stuff, you're going to feel flat broke. Sometimes the absolute fastest way to become wealthy is, well, just to lower your expectations and want less. Essentially, every single purchase you make is quietly answering one of 2 questions. Is this building the life you actually want, or is it just serving your image? When you're constantly spending money just to upgrade your lifestyle for appearances, you're accumulating what we call social debt. And social debt, it means you are now trapped by the expectations of others. But when you buy things to serve your actual life, quietly and authentically, you keep your freedom. Moving on to Chapter 2, mastering your money numbers. Now that we've got the mindset down, let's talk about the external mechanics. People love bragging about their high salaries, right? But here's the reality check. Income does not equal wealth. Net worth equals wealth. It's the ultimate measure of your financial security. You simply subtract what you owe, your liabilities, from what you own, your assets. Like we said earlier, you can make $1 million a year, but if you spend $1 million, your net worth is a big fat zero. If you lose your job tomorrow, you essentially have absolutely nothing to fall back on. So to take total control of your financial life, there are 2 absolutely crucial equations you've got to track. First is your cash flow. That's your income minus your expenses, which leaves you with your surplus. This gap right here, this surplus is your wealth building engine. The wider you can make that gap, the more money you have to pump into the second equation, your wealth. You use that hard-earned surplus to buy assets and crush your liabilities, which builds up your net worth over time. Maximizing your surplus cash flow is basically the only way to acquire real assets. Okay, but how do you actually create that surplus? Well, it takes action. Step 1, you literally have to track every single dollar like an ancient Egyptian scribe. I'm serious. If you don't measure it, you can't manage it. Step 2, aggressively separate your actual needs from your wants. You got to be super honest with yourself on this one. And step 3, give every remaining dollar a specific job. Whether it's going to your rent, beefing up an emergency fund, or buying investments, tell your money where to go instead of constantly wondering where it went. You have to cut out the invisible waste. All right, Chapter 3, the magic of compounding. Once you finally have a surplus, you need to put it into a vehicle that grows entirely on its own. Now think about this massive number. Did you know that a staggering 99% of the legendary Warren Buffett's multi-billion-dollar net worth was actually accumulated after his 60th birthday? Crazy, right? That is not a typo. That is the pure, unadulterated magic of compounding over decades. He planted the seeds super early, and in his later years, the growth just absolutely exploded. To really grasp why that happens, we need to look at the difference between simple and compound interest. Simple interest is kind of like a flat fee. Like, hey, thanks for playing, here's your $10. But compound interest? That means every single dollar you save or invest gets its own clones. And eventually those clones start going to work and paying you rent too. It's exactly like planting a tree. In year 1, it's just this tiny fragile sapling. But by year 10, it's dropping its own seeds and creating a whole orchard. You're literally earning gains on top of your gains. Which brings us to Chapter 4, slow lane versus fast lane. So where exactly do we put this compounding money? Let's check out the slow lane first. This utilizes broad market index funds, like the S&P 500. Now, think of the S&P 500 as the ultimate best of Spotify playlist, but for the 500 top companies in the US. And it's self-cleansing. If a company starts failing, it gets booted off the playlist and replaced by a better one. If you just leave your money sitting in a standard bank account, you're barely tying with inflation, which means you're basically losing purchasing power over time. But the S&P 500? Historically, it's returned around 8 to 10% annually. It reliably beats inflation over a long time horizon. And the absolute best part is that it requires zero daily effort from you. You just set it, forget it, and let the broader economy do the heavy lifting. On the flip side, what if you want to speed up that timeline, like shrinking 40 years down to maybe 3 to 10 years? For that, you need the fast lane. The fast lane is all about investing in yourself, specifically in scalable skills. We're talking about things like copywriting, coding, video editing, or sales. When you invest your time, and maybe a little money, into learning these high-value skills or starting a scalable business, you can drastically multiply your active earning power. You're not just looking at a 7 or 8% return anymore. You might literally double or triple your income. That creates a massive surplus, which you can then dump right back into the slow lane to protect it and let it grow.
And finally, Chapter 5, Defining Your True Wealth.
Okay, we've covered the psychology, we've gone through the math, but let's bring it back to the human element for a second. Here's another fantastic piece of advice from Morgan Housel. Minimize future regret. See, the ultimate goal of all this financial planning isn't just to get some high score in your checking account. If you become so utterly obsessed with saving that you skip every family vacation or you refuse to grab dinner with your friends just to pinch a few pennies, you might be making a really tragic mistake. Because then you're trading compounding memories for compounding dollars. When you're 80 years old, you're probably not going to care about an extra few $1,000s in the bank, but you will absolutely care about the time you wasted and the trips you never took. So what is the actual point of building wealth? True wealth equals independence plus purpose. The whole reason we track our expenses, widen our surplus, and invest in the market is quite simply to buy back our own time. It's all about achieving independence, so you no longer have to trade your precious time for a paycheck at a job you might not even like. And once you finally have that freedom, you can use it to build a life full of deep, authentic purpose. I want to leave you today with a direct challenge. Take a few minutes after this explainer to calculate your freedom number. Just look at your bare bones, basic monthly expenses. Your rent, your groceries, utilities, the essentials. What's that total? That exact number is the amount of passive or scalable income you need to buy back your freedom. And once you know that number, the whole goal becomes so much more tangible. So ask yourself, what is one small step, one skill you can learn, or one expense you can cut today to start building the life you truly want? Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time.